All right, welcome everyone. We're live. We got a big crew here for the end of the year recap 2025, look ahead at 2026. And these are all people that have been on the stream, on the live stream sometime during the year, or played in games around during the year. So thanks everyone for coming and dropping by. We have Greg Marks who's working on Legends of Greyhawk and all things AL on top of that. Right, Greg?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
freelancing for a lot of companies. Yeah.
Yeah. Writing lots of stuff.
Yeah.
We've got here Zach and Andrew. They did the big Kickstarter this year for what was it called? There it is.
Devoured Labyrinth.
Devoured Labyrinth. And I ran a couple of those adventures. They're great. I love the format of it, Shadow Dark.
Thanks.
Chubby's with us here. He does a lot of videos on just adventure formatting. And that's a huge area that I like to see improvement in. There's always this push and pull, and there's a lot of writers here on the screen, so it's pretty neat to see what it looks like from a writer perspective versus a DM perspective. And I know, so Zach, maybe you can talk to this a little bit. Is how much you guys had to pull back on the writing when you're doing Devoured Labyrinth?
So much.
So much.
It started out, I think we started that project. Well, before that project, we started, I wrote a few very similar type dungeons for Pirate Borg very early in the year and really liked the format. And it was a lot of fun. And the Borg is already super brief in its wording and just rip out a bunch of stuff. And I was like, this is really fun, but really what, Shadow Dark needs a book like this. And I think we ended up, Andrew, with 19 writers on it or something like that. Is a crazy, stupid
There was a lot of
number.
writers.
And yeah, the single page adventures had to be 350 to 400 words, and the 2-page had to be 600. And I mean, everybody kind of knew going in that it was going to be a challenge. We had, a template. We had, hey, target this things. This is how you do it. We had a few samples, and still, I mean, we got adventures, 1-page adventures that were turned in at 700 words, or crazy things. It is hard, even with a little tiny 4 or 5 room dungeon, to distill down an adventure yet retain enough things to make it interesting in that tight of a word count.
Yeah, I like an adventure to have those the bones in there and little nuggets of ideas in there. But it doesn't have to spell out exactly how I'm going to use them. You just give me a few ideas, and it's going to get used randomly in different. Oh, there's Sursa. Thanks, Sursa, for dropping by. My favorite writer, my favorite adventure writer. Love running the Sursa's adventures. Thanks for stopping in, Sursa. We got Cade also. Thanks, Cade. So yeah, that was cool to see that. See what you guys did there with Devoured Labyrinth. I recently did a writing thing. Hopefully it'll get used. One of my first, and it had a big long Bible on how to format the writing for the product, and it was extensive and very verbose. And it's this is the opposite of what we see in Shadow Dark, but it is how I think some companies, bigger companies, probably operate. And so it's neat to see that dichotomy between those two styles of writing. Very much so. Yeah. Great. We were talking real quick before we started here about Legends of Greyhawk and how Castle Greyhawk's coming out at Winter Fantasy. And what can you tell us about that? It talks about a competition format.
Well, not really necessarily a competition, though they might. They've talked about having sort of a leaderboard at the convention.
Oh, cool.
It's a new format that we're calling a challenge format.
Challenge, okay.
So the idea is that it's sort of a more old school level of lethality, like you'd expect from the old, 1E type adventures. And so it's a lot more dangerous without necessarily the commensurate increase in treasure. So if this was in the 3E, like Living Greyhawk, everybody did it because even if you died, you got so much treasure that it way overcame any cost for coming back from the dead. It was irrelevant. There was just so much treasure. This is not, I'm not saying there won't be cool rewards, but you shouldn't expect just mountains and mountains and mountains of treasure. You should, however, expect mountains of death. There is significant levels of
interesting. Okay.
So you got to play smart.
How is that going to play? So one maybe pet peeve I have about it organized play is not having a
Mhm.
way to start at higher level. It's not a way to start in higher level of it in Legends of Greyhawk yet.
That's correct.
Is that a plan for the future?
It is a thing that we have in discussion as to whether it will occur. It probably will not be, if it does come to pass, it will not be available by Winter Fantasy.
Okay, well, put me down as vote for it. I'm
I'm excited to play Tom's game at Winter Fantasy. You're boasting Mountains of Death, and we know Tom can deliver. So sign me up, but I don't have a 5th level character to get in that event. So
Tom definitely knows how to
I
deliver
promise,
on.
Greg, this was not like a on-purpose ambush.
Well, we'll have the full launch of Greyhawk, so we're in our what we call our beta phase right now.
Yeah.
We have 2 meetings in Q1, one online and one that takes place in person at Winter Fantasy for all the coordinators.
Cool.
And after that, towards the end of Q1, we'll launch the real full rules.
Very good.
And then you'll see what we do or do not have for you at that point.
That's cool. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Good to see you.
You
Okay,
did.
so we're talking about Living Greyhawk. The regions are starting to come online. The full final rules you said are going to be early this year, early next year, 2026. And you probably know what kind of support material might be coming officially from Wizards of the Coast. Can't share any of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What's your big plans, overall plans for 2026? And
For
Legends of
me?
Greyhawk? I was talking to Greg, Chris.
Oh, to Greg.
Yeah, sorry. What's our big plans? Well, we're going to be adding more POs, though there's one that's not announced. They now have a region, so I know what their region is, but we're going to, like we did with West Coast Adventurers Guild and Gamer Conclave, we're going to let them announce their own region. We have some ideas about more folks, but we're probably going to delay adding any other POs till at least Q3 probably. But the number of adventures that there are next year, like I released some info on this, but as many as 60 some adventures next year.
Wow.
So
wow,
quite a lot.
Yeah.
We've also talked about, we're going to have trading posts. We are in discussion about potential rules about old school meta organizations. Just so much coming that it's going to be pretty huge, I will say.
That's cool.
Oh, and of course the release of the ability to buy adventures online, right?
Yeah, right.
So like that's another big thing that's gonna happen next year. So
very cool. We just had Chris join us. Chris, early in the year 2025, the Monster Manual finally came out, right, for 2024 D&D. Probably a banner year for you with a whole new system, not whole new system, but a lot of chance to work on optimization stuff. What did you see in 2025 as compared to 2024 as compared to 2014? A lot of interest there. A lot of people...
yeah. In terms of the Monster Manual, I think it's way better.
Mm-hmm.
Like way better. Monsters are easier to run now. Like a lot of them just streamlined. A lot of things, of course, involved tons of saving throws, and a lot of those were taken out, and so that's faster, easier gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been pretty happy with it.
Regeneration was kind of like rolled into their hit points on a lot of monsters, right?
Yeah,
they lost the regeneration, but their hit points went up.
And finally, the stupid non-magical weapon thing is gone. I'm glad for that. So yeah, no, I was pretty happy with it. I think it's a significant improvement.
Yeah. I mean, I like the monsters for sure, and it's hard to know which ones you're picking up when you're running old stuff, right? Because some of them are substantially stronger than the old.
Yeah, that can take you by surprise.
Got to watch out.
I was in a one shot, and I was playing a barbarian, and the DM just threw a few cloud giants in, and the cloud giant is quite different.
Yeah,
it incapacitates you without a saving throw when it hits you.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I would take my monsters from the old 2014 monsters. I'd multiply the damage they do by like some number, some pretty big number when they got pretty high level. And if I did that on top of it being a 2024 monster, I caught the players off guard a couple times and caught myself off guard. But then they have to adapt. Maybe they lose a character. And they have to adapt.
There's always a learning curve, but no, I find gameplay is smoother with the new, and that anything that makes the game run easier. I don't care that much about balance. We'll work out the balance. If we're spending less time getting bogged down in things, that's just a good thing.
What plans do you have for 2026? What's on the radar?
More of the same.
Do you get any? I mean, I see you put out your guides and reviews and optimization stuff like that real quick. Do you get the stuff ahead of time and get to do a little bit of work ahead of time? Or
no, I did. I got the 2024 core rules early, and those are the only ones I've ever gotten early. They sometimes send me the books, right? But I don't get them till after they're released.
Yeah. All right. So Zach, Andrew, we talked a little bit before we started coming on the stream. You guys did the Devoured Labyrinth, which is a big chunk of adventures for Shadow Dark. And Zach, you've been working on, involved with Pirate Borg and that kind of work. What's on the agenda for next year for you guys?
You want to go first, Andrew?
Do I have anything on the agenda for next year? I've got a Greyhawk adventure, and one which was released previously. It was at one of the High Folk adventures. So to Greg's, I just found out for Greg that it might be published on this call. So I know as much about that as you do. So that'd be cool. So yeah, because we didn't know. I mean, we assumed that eventually they would be online, but we kind of didn't know when and how, which I guess we still don't, but it'd be exciting if that happens. And then I have another one for a different region that's a special co-written with 3 other people, which is also really cool. So yeah, and those are the things that I can talk about. I'm writing an adventures for the Eastern Merchants for the GameholeCon.
For 2026?
For 26, yeah. So I'm writing one of those. So yeah, and we were talking about Devoured and how we were doing 300 or 600 word adventures, and I'm used to Adventurers League where an adventure is 8 to 10,000 words if it's brief, and here's 300 the whole adventure, and I'm I don't know how to do this. So it was very interesting from a creative standpoint, learning just how much you can strip out. And then going back and doing Legends of Greyhawk adventures, which are much lower word count than traditional AL adventures. So in a way, one thing helped the other thing, but at the same time, the DMs for AL or now Greyhawk adventure, because they're all the same DMs, they're not necessarily expecting the stripped down format. So you kind of have to find a balance between, I want to make this brief and sort of snappy, but also adventures are not used, the DMs are not used to that. So, how do we do that?
I'm going to have to go back and look at Darkness Over Null. I ran that one. That was Sean Berwin wrote that one. And I don't recall noticing it being much shorter, but I'll have to take a look. Although
it's just over 8,000.
Okay.
So if you look at, we actually do now have a 8,000 word cap.
Nice. Okay.
And if you look at those 3, the only one that's actually under it is mine, but the others are all slightly over. They're all just slightly over.
I know that, Greg.
Yeah.
Because
there was a problem in, I think it was season 7 or 8, where it just became, the format was repeat the information over and over and over. And that was so painful. It'd be okay, here's the light. Here's how the light's described again. Here's how the light's described again. And invariably, one of those 3 places, it was different. And I'm oh, man. why are we repeating all the same information over and over? So it's good to see it get shrunk down a little bit. And with organized play, you want the outcome to kind of be pretty similar. So there's more verbosity kind of needed in that, I'd assume, than what you guys did for Devour Labyrinth, which is like, here's a setting, make it your own. Here's a few ideas, here's a few relics. Where they came from, you'll have to decide. It's like
I'm going to post an article on my website in the next probably week or so that, while not specifically only talking about Legends of Greyhawk, does sort of talk about the idea of writing briefer adventures and the idea that adventures really just are a instruction manual and not a novel. Just
awesome.
This is the goal. Tell your DM, this is what the main things are that need to happen. And here's some extra cool nuggets that you can have to have fun with. And the rest is really not needed.
Awesome. I like that. Zach, what are you going to be working on in 2026?
Well, we talked a little bit before we got on. I think right now, like early 2026 is about finishing up projects. So, Devoured is done. We've delivered digitally on that, and the books are printed, but there was a crawler deck that we kickstarted along with it, and we're hopefully going to get those in the next few weeks or so, and then we can start fulfilling the bulk of the rest of the backers. In the Pirate Borg front, we're in the exact same boat. Like, a whole bunch of stuff is hitting our warehouse in the next couple weeks, and so we're, that's a project that's been the last 18 months of my life heavily.
I just picked up the Pirate Borg, something from below or something from
Down Among the Dead or something like that?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
The adventure included in that looks really cool. I definitely want to run that adventure.
Yeah, we've got the kind of the, like, there's a couple 3 adventures in there, but the one that I think has the most chatter about it is called Into the Maelstrom, which is basically Curse of Strahd or Ravenloft on a ship.
Yeah.
And you have pelagic vampires, and it's Castle Ravenloft running around trying to rescue people, figure out things, kill vampires before a ticking clock runs out.
Yeah.
And we've been starting to do some tournaments around that at conventions throughout the year. So it's been really fun, and we're going to double down on all that in 2026. I think the other thing that I would say is, like, 2025 was a huge year for Borg projects in general, not just Pirate Borg, but across the board. I think there's at least 11 big projects that launched. There's, I think, at least 11, probably over a dozen, like, standalone Borg books that are, they're not just a new setting or a new adventure, new whatever, but they're like a reimagining of the core book, either from a Viking perspective or from like with Ragnaborg, or Torkborg is like a Mad Max vibe. Hellspawn is demons and devils. You got all these different approaches to it. I think 5 of those cracked the top 20 as far as biggest funded Borg projects of all time, which is exciting because we're in year 6 of the Borg system, and we're still seeing, like, projects cracking bigger and bigger numbers, and the average on a lot of projects is going up. And we had, counting our starter set with Pirate Borg, then there were 2 more starter sets for different Borgs that launched in 2025 and were crowdfunded. So I think 2026 will probably be the year of the starter set for Borgs, and we'll see a lot of those hit the shelves. There's one coming for Vast Grim, which is the sci-fi, and there's one coming for Ronin as well. So it's really exciting.
Big year ahead. It's going to be cool.
It's going to be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great, fun spot to be in. There's a lot of things running rampant.
Yeah. Chubby, you had a banner year with your YouTube channel kicking off and doing, basically looking at adventures and looking at, like Greg was saying, are these instruction manuals? Is this giving me what I need to run an adventure? And no holds barred reviews of some adventures. I love looking through those. I really like the stuff you did with the Curse of Strahd and making Strahd into just an abusive son of a bitch. It was a great idea for running that campaign.
I've had a lot of great feedback on the dinner party idea.
Yeah, that dinner party idea is like, oh man, that's so abusive, and it works in a great recurring way too.
Yeah,
the party at low levels can get in there.
So to speak, from like perspective, like a writing perspective, like a very, very minimum amount for you to know, but it just repeats this process forever. I'm going to be focusing in 2026 on the YouTube side on praxis. What is it that people are actually doing in a specific location? What does a book actually say? So many people want to talk in generalities, like we're doing, you know, Carl von Clausewitz or Sun Tzu level of analysis of the thing. And I'm like, let's talk about how you actually go up that hill and take that house from the enemy in real time. You know, I don't want to talk about in theory, you want to make sure your enemy is attacking when you're doing this or whatever. Like what are you specifically doing in this instance? And so when you guys were talking about tournament play and being like, it should kind of have the same outcome every time, to me, that's not what I want at all. I want to run a thing where we have 15 different people run the same alien module and it goes totally different every time. And then we analyze why this one went off the rails in this direction and that one went off the rails in this other direction, and try to figure out what we can actually control for. Like, this thing that's in this room is what's causing people to go this way or that way. But that thing was just, that player was extra. He made some weird decision that we normally don't account for. Like, approach it almost like I've talked about it before, like you're doing zoology. Like, we're studying these creatures like, well, if we put the monkeys in this kind of an enclosure, then they do this. But if we move them into one with a river, then when there's a river, they follow the river or whatever. You know, like, that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in getting at. And so it's useful for me because as a writer, I want to turn around and apply everything that we're learning to making it the best possible writing. And so much of writing, like what you guys were talking about, is in the ego of it. Like, I'm going to write 2,000 words because I want people to experience it in this particular way. So I'm adding all these extra details to try to get it to end up the way that I want, rather than provide a shortened amount of details and leave a lot of the flexibility to the GM on which way they want to take it, right? It's about control of how your ideas are implemented in it. And I mean, I'm not going to say I have no ego, but I'm moving to try to have as little ego as possible from like a Buddhist perspective, like shift that out and be like, whatever you want to do with this is up to you. You know, it's not, I don't have to control what you're doing at your table. And so that's the kind of outlook that I'm going into 2026 with. Like, I want to study what these monkeys are doing in my enclosures. I want to create some experiments and see how it works. And then I want to actually look at what people are writing, specifically what they're writing. That was a big part of the Curse of Strahd thing, was so many people talk about Curse of Strahd, they haven't even read it. You know, I'm like, this is what it actually says on page 65. Like, let's talk about that, rather than I have some idea or vague notion about how Strahd should or shouldn't work or some crap like that. So that's sorry, long-winded there a little bit, I guess, but that's my perspective going into the new year.
One of the things, you know, I think David can attest to this too, and I'm sure Greg can attest to this too, is like when you get to run an adventure repeatedly, you see that kind of thing, right? You see what are all the different shades of outcomes and the ways that players surprise you. And that's what makes DMing fun, right? It's like,
yeah,
I'm going into this and, oh, I did not think that was going to happen. That's really cool. Sometimes it surprises you in a bad way. It's like, oh shit, they're doing everything wrong and they're going the wrong direction. They're splitting up and they're halfway dead and they're not going to get out of this adventure alive. It's like, I didn't think that was coming, but you know, so it can go both ways, but it's fun to see how it goes.
I think that's actually the best session. Like, there was a session of live play that I ran like 2 months ago where they were on a VTT, of course, you know, running live, and it was on dynamic lighting. So they could not see where they had come from anymore. Yeah. Everybody got killed except one guy, Tim Shorts, and he didn't remember how to get out. So he ran the wrong direction and then looped back around to his old position. Then he ran a second time in the wrong direction, went a different way, came back, and eventually he died in the dark. Yeah. That's a way better outcome than, and then they all went and lived happily ever after with their mountain of gold and stuff like that. Man, I would much rather have one dude running through the dark, can't remember how to get out of the dungeon, That's memorable, man.
We had
Let me
the
say
exact same.
something about what kind of DM you are there.
Yeah,
Tubby.
you're like on the same mind
That's
plane.
possible also.
Yeah, we had the exact same thing happen. We ran Scarlet. The what's it? The Scarlet Minotaur, lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur, and you guys, David, were running for the Minotaur and could not find out which way was out. Didn't know which way to go. You luckily stumbled on the way out, but it's an old school thing, and we did this when we ran Lost Caverns of Sochcamp. I drug that out and ran that with dynamic lighting and old school. You know, if you want a map, you got to make your own map, and they kind of got lost. They're down there on the second level, can't make progress, and so I gave a little coaching, which maybe I shouldn't have done, but I said,
Tom
hey,
was getting pretty frustrated by our performance in this adventure. And
there's rocks on the ground.
our
You want to make like a sign so you know if you've been here or not?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys, think. I'm not going to just lead you to the next encounter. You're going to have to find the next encounter on your own. It's a different mindset, right? All through 4th edition. In a lot of 5th edition, we were led by the nose, encounter to encounter. And that's one way to play. Another way to play is where it's like the players are driving the action and they might get lost. Now, that can get pretty dumb and boring if they never make progress. But it puts so much responsibility on the players, and I think it's fun from a player's side. It's fun from my side to see all the different things that happen. Ed, I want to get you guys involved.
Yeah.
You guys have played in Shadow Dark adventures I've run, Draw Steel adventures I've run. What have been your favorite adventures this year? I'll start with you.
Oh, man. Yeah. So the Delian Tomb I thought was really fun. That was in the length of it for like a starter adventure. Like I thought was really impressive. I thought that was really fun. What was it called? The Jaguar. It was one of Circe's.
Yeah. The Jaguar print. I'll find it here while you're talking.
That was extremely fun. That was a Shadow Dark dungeon that was extremely fun. That we got to play. I thought that was really good. Yeah, that was the one with all the teeth, right? Like, was that the one with that? Yeah.
That was a Circe Victory adventure. Shrine of the Jaguar Princess, I think, was the name of it. An homage to Lost Tomb of the Tomoe-chan, I think it was. The C3 or C4 adventure, the one with all the teeth. Yep.
Yeah, the one it had the one with all the teeth. Yeah, just everything. There's teeth. Everything has something to do with teeth.
Circe, I worked with Circe on that. You let me run it. Ed is one of my favorite players to watch. There's a shout out to you, Ed. One of my favorite players to watch play. His commentary is hilarious.
Yeah, it was. That was absolutely.
Well, yes, Circe reminds us the teeth don't appear just there.
Yeah,
there's teeth in lots of adventures.
Teeth everywhere. Yeah, just every time you play it, you're like, oh man, there's going to be some sort of dental connection everywhere you go.
I feel bad for the children in this world.
Yeah.
The baby.
One thing I want to say, a comment of that Chubby had, that the style of writing where it's a little more minimalist, where you're just sort of saying what's going on and not necessarily leading, not necessarily instruction manual. As when I was first DMing, like when I very first started, the starter adventures where it's like, okay, here's an instruction manual and this is just going to lead you, like, here's how to do it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is great, someone's holding my hand and I know how to do this. As I've gotten more experience as a DM, I find that style of writing where you just know what the major fronts are that are moving around in a setting or in a campaign, that's really all you need. Is just, what are the major factions, what are the major players, and then I can fill in the details from there. Because a lot of times your players are going to do something so off the rails or bananas, and you're like, okay, there's no way that anyone could have accounted for that ever. And so as long as you know what the major fronts are, the things that are like really pushing things around, you're like, okay, I can fit this in. Oh, they want try to con their way into becoming a duke, yeah, sure, fine, okay, let's see how we can manage to squeeze this into the framework of what's happening. But yeah, just that comment of what he said, that I was like, yeah.
Stefan, thank you so much. Have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you very, very much, Stefan. Better with Bacon is here. I did an adventure with this crew of players. Let's see. Table Runner Crispy. He does like commentaries on games, and he's also no holds barred. And it's kind of like a what do I want to say? Well, anyway, I enjoy watching. And he has a lot of things that really, I think, help with running combat fast. And it's really like a lot of people don't think of it this way, but the fastest combat is the one where you're in character the whole time. You know, you talk about role playing and combat, like there's this dichotomy in games, and there's really not. As long as you're role playing all the time, your combats are going to be lightning fast. And the big thing there is you play your character and you don't play other people's characters. And you don't have like this group discussion every turn about everyone's playing, 6 people are playing character A, and then 6 people are playing character B, and then 6 people are playing character C. Instead, you're playing your character. And really that boils down to that. And he's got lots of other advice there, and lots of good advice for DMs on how to make sure you're not like taking the spotlight from the players, making sure the players are keeping the spotlight. They're the ones who are playing the character. They should be the heroes. They should be describing what their characters are doing. You see a lot of DMs would kind of, and I always did this, and I'm trying to get better at it, kind of restate what the player just stated. Instead of letting the player describe what the player just did, what their character just did, and let that sit on its own, they'll recap it as if they can say it better. And some of them can, but the players will never get better if they don't let the players just do it. So I think that's great advice.
Crispy's best advice of 2025, though, has to be that if you're recording a live play that's a demo of a new system that you're just launching, and it's your system and you're trying to be the best advocate for that system, do not spend any time on your phone during that live play filming experience.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
That was good. We had the adventure with where I tried to run for this crew of players that is just super role play only, 4D role playing, which is just staying in character the whole time. And we did it with Draw Steel, and they were playing Draw Steel for the first time. And I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be hard for you guys, because Draw Steel requires a lot of knowledge of what's happening with the other characters. So it's really hard to run Draw Steel without a lot of inner non role playing talk, but more like on the upper level game talk, right? It can be done though, and the more you play Draw Steel, I think the better you'll get at it. So that was a lot of fun to try that out. I had a great time running that for you guys. We have here Tyson. Thanks for joining, Tyson.
There we go. I had it muted because wife and kid are in the background. But yeah, no, glad I could make it on. It's good to actually put some faces to people. I'm used to just hearing voices.
You're playing today, right?
I am.
Playing the Summoner, the Draw Steel Summoner.
Yeah. See how that goes?
What was that?
We'll see how that goes. It
We'll
looks like it's going to be a lot of, I don't know, accounting on the back end.
Yeah. So here's where I'll be relying on you as the player. I won't police your math or anything like that, and you'll be tracking that, and we'll see how it goes. It'll be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah.
So let's talk about new games this year.
Yeah, I have my page printed off, ready to go.
Let's talk about new games. So the first new game, of course, we got the last of the 2024 D&D books coming out, the Monster Manual. 2024 is complete now, and they're rolling into 2026. We don't know what the big campaign is. I hope they have something big planned. I'm excited to see what it might be. Then next, of course, we had various Kickstarters come in. We had Sigil. Did anyone play Sigil before its untimely death? We played it. We played one game. it was what you expect, right? I mean, we're all role players. We're all TTRPG role players,
Well,
and there's a big difference.
I would actually like to get you guys' opinion, because usually I hear this from old school guys who don't have 5e experience, and there's a lot of 5e experience on this stream. So
yeah,
I gave it. A friend of mine, Joe the lawyer, believes that the reason why a lot of the changes that were being described by Chris as streamlining that monster manual and all those kind of things was to take kind of GM adjudication out of abilities so that it could run better on Sigil. Does that fit with you guys' experience or no?
I don't know if it did.
I don't think, like, the designers have talked about, there wasn't a whole lot of communication,
which might be part of the problem.
Like,
right?
I think the design process was what it was.
Different teams.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm looking to you guys for.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Based on the things the designers have said, unless they're lying, but I don't see a reason to think they are. They suggested that the digital side had no impact at all on design.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you played just like a Lich, a 2014 Lich versus a 2024 Lich, the streamlining that went into that is, I mean, you can see, like, I personally don't think it had anything to do with the digital side. Like, literally, I think it was just DMs going, oh my God, the cognitive, like, overload on trying to run a, 15th level wizard on top of a bunch of minions and keep track of everything else is way too much.
Yeah.
And I think it was a big push just to go, okay, look, let's build a bunch of like we talked about, building in the regen into the hit points and stuff like that, just to ease some of that load off of the DM, so that you can go, okay, I'm not going to forget all the things that actually make this monster run the way it's supposed to run if they just build it all in. I think that was a big, because I remember running some high level monsters and just going, oh wait, I forgot to do this. Oh wait, I forgot to do this. Oh wait, I forgot to do this. And I think that was a pretty big problem. I think that was a big push.
Yeah, and removing the abilities that were the trap abilities, the ones that weren't actually at the level of the CR of the monster. Like, the calculation assumes that, yeah, you're just gonna cast Fireball because that's the optimal choice. So why did I give you, the Ray of Sickness? Like, I mean, thematically maybe it's appropriate, but it totally messes up the CR math if you assume that you're doing that instead.
And I was just thinking about like the streamlining. The thing is with something like Sigil or any VTT, is they integrate automatic, like all that stuff gets automated. So it's actually easier to have a clunkier monster on a VTT than it is at the table. So I'm quite confident that that it had nothing to do with Sigil. Yeah.
They were, so we played it, and they were very clearly nowhere near done.
No,
they had like the basic mechanics working, but they had so much to fill in, and they had spent so much money up to that point. And it's very clearly a different experience than your regular tabletop gaming experience, where as a DM, you can really ad hoc on the fly do stuff. And the more and more automated a system gets, the less and less you can ad hoc a system, which you really want on a tabletop.
This was one of the things I found really hard with D&D Beyond, with like magic items.
Yeah.
And before, you could just go, oh yeah, you have a sword and it does this cool thing. Here, just write this down. It does this thing. Where what my players wanted on D&D Beyond was, oh no, we want you to program it in so that it had. I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
That's one of my taking that to the extreme, and they had so far to go.
But that's one of the good announcements of this year, that they're working on streamlining the D&D Beyond stuff to make it easier for you to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I mean that'll be like, I mean, you can do it now, but it's really kludgy. Yeah. I'm really excited for it to be. I just click a couple boxes and easy.
Right.
Amit, I want to get back to you on games we ran this year. What was your favorite game? What got you playing with me? And what games did you enjoy?
So obviously I started way back when you first ran your Adventures League on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
commuting back and forth to work, I would watch that all the time, binge watched it. Signed up to play some 5e. I'd say my favorite was Draw Steel. I just think, there's this attractiveness to the system that just, you can't really find, and it's hard to get into. And this is from a 5e player. For years I've been playing D&D. Draw Steel just does it. It keeps you immersed. And like you said, I think you have to, you're forced to pay attention, not just you, but everyone at the table. You can't be distracted. You can't, there's no time for that because you'll miss something. And even when you're paying attention, you still miss something. But in a good way, right? You're 100% immersed in the game. And I think that for me as a TTRPG fan, I love that. And I think 5e kind of became a bit light on that as of late. So we're hopefully, in the years to come, it goes back to it. One thing that I did want to add to the comment about streamlining, I think that Shadow Dark does really well, is it essentially is truly an outline for the adventure. There's no fluff, none. It is just exactly bare bones what you need to run the adventure, and that's it. And as a DM, you can then go ahead and fill in whatever you want, really. And I think it takes the pressure off of DMs. I feel as someone who's ran 5e adventures, I feel like, oh, you have to run this, you have to run this encounter, you have to read this text. I mean, there is none of that. So I think that's great.
I have a real push-pull love affair with Shadow Dark versus Draw Steel, right? They're so on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And I love how Shadow Dark is so out of your character sheet and in the world. You're trying to make use of everything in the world. There's not really anything to go to your character sheet for. You have a sword, you have some spells you can cast. You don't have 25 different powers of 15 different cool names. But then Draw Steel's the opposite, where there's just your character sheet's got so much stuff on it. Like you said, you won't remember it all while you're playing. So it's been fun playing both those systems for sure. The other system that came out this year was Daggerheart, and I played that a couple times. Andrew's played it a bunch. Be interested to hear from other people. I know Chris, you played it with me early on. I think it was alpha or beta.
And you and I talked off camera one time about it too.
Yeah, we did.
and we had similar opinions.
You want to share what that was?
I don't think I'll use the words we used, but we weren't fans.
Let me share what my biggest thing with it is. I mean, you can make any system sing. If you're a good DM, you can, I think, make any adventure sing, any system sing. And when you're running for players, you don't want to be bad-mouthing what you're running to them, obviously, especially if you're getting compensated in some way to do it. So be a professional DM as regards to treating yourself professionally, not if you're getting paid for it. But then having to talk about the system. So the biggest thing for me with the system was how randomized it is, and not in a simple way. I mean, D&D is randomized. You might hit, you might miss, but you're making choices to make your hits more often and your misses less often. And you really have a lot of fine control over that as a player. And you can control, okay, we're going down to resources, we need to run, that type of thing, or maybe we're making progress, we're doing good here. Whereas Daggerheart's got a real randomness to it, where if you roll a string of hope, or if you roll a string of fear, you get vastly different outcomes on how far you can progress. And I saw that when I ran the adventure. I think in the end, that'll probably work itself out. But that was my biggest thing for the system.
My biggest thing was it really, really felt like my decisions didn't matter. That it was all going to play out the way that you
wanted to.
Yeah, that you wanted it, that it's supposed to go, right? And so the player seemed like the big thing was, oh, we can describe how things go, but I don't want that. I want to have to try to struggle to get things to go the way I want them to. I want the risk of dying, all that stuff. I want to know that maybe this time, Chubby will be my DM, and I'll die running around trying to get away from the enemies. I like that. Not every time, but if it happens sometimes, then when I do succeed, it means something, right? And Daggerheart, it just felt like it was a written story, and I was narrating. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Now I know Andrew's probably got a much different take on it.
It's actually ironic because the two comments that you guys have made are literally the reasons why I much prefer Daggerheart over Draw Steel. And it's like we're talking about different games, almost like you're talking about like how you don't have any power. That's how I feel in Draw Steel, because I just roll the dice and whatever happens, happens. Like in Daggerheart, I can use hope to increase my chances. I can use an experience to do something. Like I can sort of push the character or use my resources to like improve my chances. Where in Draw Steel is just I roll and it happens. And I feel like I have no power. Well, the power of you decide whether you're going to attack and you decide where you're going to stand. You have that power in all games.
Yeah, you're going to help another character attack them. You're going to eat ally. There's a lot of things in
when we end a combat and Tom is sitting on an endless pile of resources he didn't use of actions. I know that nothing mattered. Right.
Oh, that's
right, because he could easily have killed us all. But so he'll just spend enough that it seems close.
When I read it,
very disappointing to hear, Tom.
When I read
that you would have extra resources on hand at the end of the battle. What are you doing, sir?
Saving them for the conclusion so that he can wipe them out at the end.
It could have saved us 3 hours.
I'm not a huge fan of metacurrency.
I was going to say the same thing as my opinion, but metacurrency is the killer for me.
Not a huge fan of it. But what I've learned to do when I'm running games with it, like Daggerheart or Draw Steel, which I didn't do the first time with Chris, is spend that metacurrency. Spend it. And that's the expected level of difficulty. If I'm not spending it, I'm not running it at the expected level of difficulty.
Except you can have too much.
Expand the fear.
Just obliterate them.
Oh, God, yeah. You can end up with way too much fear. And I was running for Teos and Sean in a 5th level adventure I did for Daggerheart. And Sean missed every attack and rolled with fear every time. And the first session was just horrendous because they couldn't make any progress. They were just getting beat down, and it wasn't because they were playing badly. They were just rolling with fear a lot. And then the second session, I thought, okay, this will be good. It's a good challenge, and they obliterated it because they rolled with hope the whole time. I'm like, this should have been an appropriate challenge for them, but it just was a cakewalk. And it's like, well, I, as a DM, could make it not a cakewalk by just ad hoc changing stuff, but I don't want it to be a game like that. I want it to be some sort of challenge you go into and you're going to overcome. And then, so Andrew, you're talking about how as players you have more control. You get more control after the fact in Daggerheart, right? And you get more control before the fact in games like any other game. And Daggerheart, you get control before the fact too, in that, okay, have I done aid ally? Have I done a flank? Have I granted a bunch of surges to my allies such that they are all kind of armed up before they go in, as opposed to they have hope that they can spend after. So I could see your point where it's like you feel like you can affect the things after the roll more in Daggerheart.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about you can affect the roll. What you're doing, what you're describing, you're not affecting the roll.
Yeah, you're affecting your strategy. You're affecting the roll beforehand.
Yeah, and I kind of
consider yourself edge, you're getting an ally edge.
Yeah, I consider it's like where you stand and which spell you're going to cast. I find you make those decisions in every game you play. But I'm on the other side of the metacurrency discussion because my favorite systems, other than 5e, are things like Cypher and the 2d20 system, which are all about metacurrency and narrative and sort of that sort of thing. So I come to Daggerheart a little bit from the other side of it.
Well, it's good to have you on the call because we had to have someone defending Daggerheart.
Yeah, so. we gotta have both perspectives.
Gotta have one person.
It's good to have you
No,
on the
I
call.
mean-
Now you can leave now as well.
Well,
Okay.
as long as I don't have to share my opinions in chatter, that we're going to be good.
I know,
Zach-
that's true. It's funny how we all have systems we really like. And we seem like we're the opposite of everyone else in the world, and we have systems we don't like, and we seem like, and that's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
it must be hard for anyone who works creatively in this space to see someone just tearing down your work, but you know that 90% of the people love your work, or vice versa. And so I empathize with people who are writing in this space.
Players are different. We want different things.
Yeah,
Right.
players are
And we get different things out of the game. And
Yep.
you are never, ever, ever going to come up with a system that satisfies
Right.
Yeah.
everybody because, if I like something, it's a guarantee that there's another player who won't like it. Right.
Right. Well, I mean-
and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, all these systems, especially the systems written by one person or a small team. I mean, it really reflects sort of how their brain works. Like, this is the game they like to play, but not everybody's brain works the same. And so what they really clicks for them, like somebody else just can just sort of bounce off of, right? Where you go, oh, that doesn't make any sense to me, or just doesn't really work for me. But that's why, I mean, that's one of the amazing things about this hobby, especially now. I mean, just how many different systems and how many different things that are out there. I've never run into anybody that just goes, oh, none of it works for me. Like, I can't, like, I haven't found any system. There's nothing out there that I like. There's something out there for everybody, because it's just so many different mechanics and so many different ways, because everybody's just pouring their own process into it. And you just go, oh, wow, look at that. That really clicks for me.
That's a good discussion point. It's really an interesting time in the hobby where there's the ability to self-create, where individual creators can really make a dent out there. Chubby's making a dent out there. Of course, Zach's making a dent out there. Andrew, everyone's able to go out there and just write their own thing. And I'm surprised at how much some of these backer kits and Kickstarters get, even though I don't know that they're going to get played necessarily, because there's not enough time to play all of them. Right? It's like I've backed a lot of things that, I played it 2 or 3 times, and that's all I'm going to play it.
I don't even know how much stuff that just I buy it because I want to read it. Like, it's never going to get played. I just love reading rule books and seeing how different people put stuff together.
Yeah, that's the fun part of it.
You need to read everything. If you want to be a designer, that's the whole point, right? You got to read and play everything at least a little bit so that you can mine for ideas and see how everything meshes. Take the best good ideas for whatever you need to do for your next project.
Yeah.
And you never really know, like, what's best for you until you read other things, right? I mean, I'm 100% guilty of this, where, when I played as a kid, it was just D&D. Pathfinder was just starting out. There wasn't the choices that people have today. And so for me, if I see a new system, I'll read it. It may not be for me. That's okay. But it might. And you just don't know until you take that chance and just pick up a book and give it a shot.
And it might reinforce what you already think. Like, I used to be kind of broad interest and all that, and then playing a good number of story games actually made me realize what I really like about old school games and shift towards that. No shade against those games. Like, I had to play them in order to go, oh, what they're doing differently makes me realize that I actually really like it this way over here. That's just useful thing to know about yourself.
Yeah, there's such a huge preponderance now. There's kind of a preponderance in the early days too. I mean, David, not that you're old, David, you're as old as I am, but back when we were playing, it was RuneQuest and Rollmaster and D&D and GURPS, and there's systems out there. Yeah, there's a lot of different systems.
There were tons.
And I played Rollmaster just because it was tied to Lord of the Rings, so I was super entranced with what that was like and how that system would run. And the source books for that are fun to look through and see what level Legolas is and what level Gandalf is and all that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But now there's a huge number, and
Did you ever get a higher level than Gandalf?
No.
No, you die in MERP. You roll a fumble, and then you bleed out in 2 rounds. Or
yeah.
You take an arrow that goes through both ears, and
oh, those critical tables.
It will happen eventually.
Yeah. So
I think the accessibility though now of like, because people could set up an online shop or go through like Drive-Thru RPG or something like that, being able to find like those little zines, or even like if you know a creator that you follow on Patreon or something like that, being able to get your hands on, I mean, just about anything now that's a huge win, because I mean, where I grew up, like we didn't have a local game store or anything, and so getting your hands on it, unless it was, like D&D had major distribution, and so it was easy to get your hands on. But anything else that was smaller was like, yeah, good luck if if you can't get it in like a bookstore, you're not going to be able to get your hands on this.
Yeah, I remember mail ordering for a Harn. It took like 6 weeks for it to come in. Just a different world that we live in nowadays.
We have amazing tools, and you don't have to have an enormous audience either. You could, with about maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people interested in your work, you could have a full-time job in this industry making your own stuff, if you structure your costs and everything, obviously. But like things like that, like you don't need to sell 10,000 books every month. That's just, it's not required to be successful anymore. You can make it with a smaller amount of people that are more interested in your work, more dedicated. There's all sorts of revenue streams that never existed before. YouTube, Patreon, self-publishing through places like Drive-Thru or on like Amazon or big sites, whatever, running crowdfunding stuff. All these tools that we didn't have for years and years.
So Wizards shot themselves in the foot 2 years ago when they tried to revoke the OGL.
Really?
I was like,
yeah. What happened?
I was like, commit. I was playing D&D and only D&D for years and years and years.
Are you sure? Because now with all of the third-party publishers publishing things, and now them putting it on D&D Beyond, and they get a cut when they sell.
No, Greg,
did they really shoot themselves
have the last laugh? Yeah, they might have the last laugh.
That was the big.
That was such an incredible fumble for the community, though, because that really got all these other systems out the door and into the public eye, for better or for worse. And having those options out there kind of drives innovation and drives creativity. It was kind of harmful at the time, but it was great to see the long-term effects of that. I bought more stuff than I ever would have, because
long-term it'll be so much better.
Before for me it was D&D and Pathfinder, and that was kind of it. I read other stuff, but now I'm out there trying all these different things because, when Wizards fumbled that, they created the space.
Yeah, I remember going out and reading things on the web, and I found Kelsey writing about how, oh man, I was about ready to release this Shadow Dark thing, and now I think I need to rewrite it. Can't do it as a 5th edition supplement. I have to do my own GIM system with it now. And that turned out well for her. She was in the right place at the right time with a great system. Love the writing that she has in that book, just the succinctness of it, the brutality of it. It really drew me in. And, I right away, I'm like, okay, I'm going to run this Labyrinth of the Scarlet Minotaur and see how this goes. And we had a blast. Running that. And then we tried, then Crown and Skull. Tried Crown and Skull. That's something I never would have tried. That was a neat system. Red Dragonbane, Crown and Skull and Dragonbane share a little bit on the monster running side of things, so that's pretty neat. And then of course, Draw Steel comes out, where it's like, hey, remember 4th edition? Maybe that was pretty good, but they came out with some pretty neat enhancements and neat ideas. And the biggest thing I think is how they're trying to drive pushing forward, as opposed to attrition. That most games use attrition, and they're trying to push forward. And it's kind of a push and pull, and Ed can testify to this. If you run out of your recoveries, it's game over quick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But until
Yeah.
that happens, so that's an attrition that's happening. That once that hits, you're done. But otherwise, you're pushing forward because every victory you get, you're better off in the next encounter, which is a neat idea. What other cool ideas have you guys seen out of some of the systems you guys have seen this year or years past that really thought, oh, that's great?
Has anybody looked at the magic system for Vagabond, Terran Pound's
No
system? It is a very
that was a backup.
There you go. Yeah, the magic system in that I think is super cool. Like, so the base level of spells you can cast for free, and then if you want to change the area of effect, number of targets, the damage, then it starts costing more in mana. So you can start to customize your spells. Like, I mean, it can be any area of effect. So you can have your fireball can be a sphere, or you can do a cube or a cone, or have it target 2 people, or whatever you want to do. So if you've got the mana and the wherewithal to pull it off, you can like really customize a bunch of stuff. And I thought that was, in terms, like, I thought that was the magic system for Vagabond, I thought was really innovative. I thought that was really cool.
I thought Vagabond was very, very good. I think Terran is very like creative and has a good head for what works at the table. And yeah, Daggerheart, Vagabond. The thing I liked about it is it wasn't full OSR, but it was kind of like a little dash of OSR to let your whistle.
Yeah. It's I highly recommend it. If anyone who hasn't looked at it, I highly recommend it. Giving it a look.
It was a wild ride in the Discord as he was kind of getting projects up and running, and then closing it, and then opening another one on BackerKit and Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I was nervous as a backer because I really liked some of his other stuff, Anthologies of Heroes. So I was like, I'm gonna give Vagabond a try regardless, support him. But he clearly, I think he was in a little over his head with the crowdfunding. It's a whole new beast.
Well, I think he, like the Kickstarter, he just barely made it.
Yeah,
right?
It
like
was through the wire.
And he pushed hard at the end just to make it. So I think there was a crunch on money too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. David, you got a best of the year?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I'd like to mention my my first and annual DM David's best of the year that I just thought of during this stream. So a lot of thought and deliberation has gone into these awards, and I think they should be treated with that level of honor. But a quick call out, Chubby, I just watched a video earlier this week where you were talking about writing up adventures, something that we were talking about earlier in this stream, and talking about information flow sort of in the adventure write-ups, with obstacles that come and how they block certain things that
barriers
that the players can learn, and how to handle that while you're considering how to go through the information flow of the adventure for the Dungeon Master Game Master. And I'm still thinking about that. I thought it was a really thought-provoking article, so I wanted to give you a shout out on that one. Plus that layout for that Dalmanwood adventure, that was stunning. It was so well done, and I was admiring it and also marveling at how much effort whoever did that lavished on doing that layout for the adventure. But on to the awards. My favorite game that I've played this year was the Heroes of the Borderlands game that you were running, Tom. That was a blast.
I did not.
And I think a lot of it was because of the sense of peril that I had, because there was always a chance that we were all going to die, and we almost all did, thanks to that gelatinous cube. Plus, there was a lot of autonomy that I felt because of all the sandbox play that we were getting with the choices that we were making, and really feeling the consequences. So, for example, if you circle back to fight that gelatinous cube again, we didn't intentionally do that. We just stumbled back and we knew it was going to be risky. And we paid for it. But it was exciting to feel that sort of on the edge sense of peril and choices that really made sense. A shout out to me, in my unbiased opinion, my best blog post of the year was the one I did on the speed of play and how the D&D design team has stopped making that a priority after Mike Merles stopped leading the team. I thought I had a lot of great examples in that. And I hope that with new design talent joining the team, that'll start becoming a consideration again, because it's certainly something that we've lost in D&D over the time since the release of the 2014 edition. My D&D product of the year is something that Chris on this call had a lot to do with. That was the Cthulhu by Torchlight supplement that Mike Merles came out on behalf of Chaosium for D&D. And I thought the designs in there were outstanding for the character subclasses and whatnot. Really nice work and some other and innovative stuff. And I think Chris on this call owes, a lot of that is due to his involvement in making sure that the abilities were interesting, powerful, and not being broken. And man, I wish that the D&D team over in Seattle followed that sort of. I wish they had some optimizers on that team. Like, for example, they hire for the Magic the Gathering team to make sure their cards work well. They just don't seem to have that as a talent area that they add on the group. And man, they sure should, because it really showed in that supplement how much that can help.
I was thinking the whole time during the playtest, why is Preempt Mode not in the loop on this all the way?
So true.
He will tell them what's wrong with everything they're doing.
Yeah, he's our favorite, but I'm sure there's other people out there that are doing good work in that front who would be a great candidate.
Okay, stop, you guys. You're gonna make me melt on screen here.
Okay. Game of the year for me was definitely Draw Steel, because that game, when I think about, we were talking a little bit earlier about design innovations that we're seeing in different games that, really are impressing us. The mindfulness of the design and the awareness of different problems and the way it's tackling them in innovative ways just knocks me out. Draw Steel, I don't think it's perfect. There's a little bit of an extra player and game master load that it's probably a little dialed too high for my taste, but still things like making combats ramp up instead of start strong and then dwindle down. It just everywhere is something thoughtful that solves problems that we've been grappling with D&D for a long time. And there's so much ingenuity in it. It's really impressive. And those are my awards for this year. Maybe next year I'll put some more thought into them. Next year, my goal is to run some more games. I'm going to start that with Winter Fantasy, running a bunch of Grim Hollow games for people who sign up, and I'm lucky enough to have at my table. And I'm working on an adventure that I've been talking about for a long time, and I'll be looking for players for Frozen Fleet of the Blood Admiral pretty soon. So I'm excited about that.
That sounds epic.
That's what I got.
Very cool. Thanks, David. All right, guys, I need to wrap it up here, but I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, and I hope you have a great 2026. Hopefully I get to work with all of you during that time and play games with all of you during that time. So thank you, and thanks for everyone who's watching. I hope you all have a great 2026. Thanks, and good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, folks.